Meeting to order. Would you please take roll?
Ms. Atkins. Mrs. McDaniel.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson. Mr. Stoffer.
Here.
Mr. Wylage.
Here.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the December 5th, 2022 agenda?
So moved.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
They got third place in Palm and fifth place in Lyrical. I also understand that our color guard also won state championship, so that's amazing as well. And then all soloists who participated got Division I ratings, so congratulations to all of them. We have Lee Toole, who is a middle school guidance counselor for us and coached baseball for us for many years. He is being inducted into the National High School Baseball Coaches Association. So he's down in Florida accepting that award, or he just went, either just going or just went, supposed to be sometime here soon. Or if I'm missing anything that we're doing within the school, please don't hesitate to share those with my email, and I'll make sure we recognize them during board meetings as well. I think it's important to give people recognition and toss it out there. But Justin just got on with the Seattle Mariners. He graduated in 2005, played for the University of Iowa, played in the minor leagues, and was the Cleveland Guardians hitting coach prior to this. We have alumni, Max Duggan. He was named the 2022 Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award winner. He was a 2019 graduate. The Johnny Unitas Golden Arm is given to the best upperclassman quarterback in the nation, and quarterbacks are judged not only on their stats, but also on their character, scholastic achievement, and leadership qualities. His team is currently ranked number 3, and in the college football playoffs, they're one of the finalists now, and they'll play Michigan in the first round. And about 25 minutes ago, he was named as a Heisman Trophy finalist. So he is one of the final 4 to be named for the Heisman Trophy. So, I mean, you think about how many people have won the Heisman Trophy in the United States, and that's given to the nation's best football player in general in the college level, or most valuable player. And he's one of the final 4. So that's pretty awesome that he came from Council
Absolutely.
Bluffs and Lewis Central here. We have alumni Caleb Shudak, 2016 graduate, and he's on here because he just kicked in his first NFL game. He kicked for the Tennessee Titans. They pulled him up from the practice squad, and he went 3 for 4 in field goals and 1 for 1 in extra points. So, and then I also want to throw out thanks to the Knights of Columbus. They donated over $650 for our Special Olympics through their Tootsie Roll drive. So, a lot of good alumni news today. A lot of good
Absolutely.
alumni athletes that's popping out. So,
Yes.
I think this weekend we had former students playing Division I football.
wow. Yeah.
So that, and of course the Tennessee Titans, the kick Caleb. So it was kind of a big weekend.
And if we, and then I also did what I call a Titan Talk. So I started and this is probably goes under my report, but I'll just talk about it because it is good news. So I'm gonna do Titan Talks, where I'm going to meet with stakeholders from Lewis Central, students, staff, parents, alumni, and basically try to, once a week or once every other week, do a quick interview with them to talk about Lewis Central and their experiences with Lewis Central, and introduce them to kind of social media land. And so that way, a lot of times it's when people say, what's so great about Lewis Central, and I could talk about it, but it means a lot more if it's coming from people who have lived it. So, so we did our first one today, and that should be coming out on Facebook here real soon. It is football related, by the way. So I think it's just that time of year that everybody's thinking
Absolutely.
about football. So, but I will rotate as far as who's involved and what they're involved in, and just making sure that we're putting spotlights on a lot of our very deserving stakeholders.
Okay, anyone else? Good news? Okay, we'll go on to comments and comments and suggestions from the audience, or anyone who is listening online can type into the chat and direct anything to the board. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll go ahead to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have an updated personnel?
We do. We've added a volunteer coach sponsor, Steve Stonebreaker, as high school volunteer baseball coach. And we have 4 staff members who are being paid for either officiating or special services. Deneen Healy at $100, Cassie White $100, Aaron Nickman $100, Charlie Reese $75. Those are ads.
Okay,
And I will share that document with the board as well.
okay. Is there any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel.
Yes. Examine financial accounting of books for fiscal year 2022.
All right. So the final treasurer's report for FY '22 was in your board packet. This is our cash basis report. As you could see on it, the general fund ending balance was just a slight decrease. The activity management and enterprises funds all had increases, and SAVE and PEPAL had decreases, but obviously SAVE's decrease was due to the bond proceeds being spent on our construction projects. And as I said, this is the cash one, and as we discussed, the spending authority, our spending authority did increase as of June 30th of '22.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussion? And this is part of, that's one thing I failed to mention, this is our annual organizational board meeting. And so this is part of
Correct.
the organizational board meeting.
Yes.
Okay, do we need to vote on this?
We could get an approval for it? Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel? Yes. Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes. And now our organizational meeting, I will turn this over to the board secretary to call it to order.
So I will call the organizational meeting to order, and I will call for nominations for board president.
Would like to nominate Doreen Shuffle for board president.
Second. Are there any other nominations for board president? All right, I'll call a vote for Doreen Shuffle to be the board president. Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
I will administer the oath. Sorry for making you stand.
No, it's good to stand, it's fine, it just takes me a little bit.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board president in Lewis Central Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Thank you. I will turn the meeting over to you, Mr. President.
Okay. And now we will need the election of board vice president. Do I have a nomination?
I would like to nominate Amy.
Do we have a second? Second. Or do we have any other nominations? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the nominations for vice president. Would you please take the vote?
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Board Vice President in the Lewis Central Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Okay, and now appointment of board secretary and treasurer. Can I get a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Andrea Reyes for the position of board secretary and treasurer.
Second.
Is there any other nominations? Okay, we'll close the nominations, and would you please take the vote?
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Shuffle?
Yes. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Board Secretary and Treasurer? Is that what, yes. In Lewis Central Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I do.
Thank you.
Can you do a quick photo with the three of you? Just over there in front of that, inscription. It's good.
As long as it's not a close-up.
You can stand out in the hallway. That'd be good.
So we check, I guess.
You can move this way a little bit.
Sheriff's back to sheriff.
Yep.
See, it doesn't have-
My what? My crutch is down there.
That's later.
I can walk somewhat.
I thought it was celebration time. I just
No.
didn't see it down there.
No. My hip's fine, it's my arthritis now. Okay. And now we'll go to name district depositories. Will you?
So the district depositories, if we will name those, for American National for a maximum of 13 million, UMB, the maximum of 4 million, and IceJet PMA for 32 million.
Madam President, I'd like to make a recommendation that we select American National Bank with a max of 13 million, UMB with a max of 4 million, ISJIT PMA for a max of 32 million as our district depositories.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Name official publications.
If we will name the NAPRL as the official publication for the school district for the year.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Atkins.
I would like to nominate the Nonpareil as the official publication for the Lewis Central School Board.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Establish meeting date, time, and location.
For the meeting date, the official date would be the first and second Mondays of the month.
A third Monday.
Sorry, first and third.
Okay.
Oh, you guys may want to change it up.
Yes.
First
No.
and third.
As long as it stays in the evening.
Yes, at 6:30 PM at the Education Resource Center of Lewis Central Schools, 4121 Harry Langdon Boulevard, with exceptions for holidays.
And extenuating circumstances.
Yes.
Right.
So
And I-
moved.
I was going to say, we do have board policy on our meeting times and dates, and I think in there, if things happen, you know, and we need to adjust by an hour, or if we have to go to all Zoom, we've changed the time, but that's always, we always notify the public at minimum of 24 hours ahead
Yep.
of time, so.
And to clarify, our next month is the 2nd and 4th because of the holiday?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Committee membership and assignments. We have the negotiating HR committee.
So usually this committee just kind of met for negotiations. I do like to have them also meet with me periodically to discuss HR in general, because sometimes when it comes down to either positions, adding or removing positions, or changing up structures or those types of things, it's nice to be able to have a committee to kind of discuss that with. So even beyond negotiations, just a committee we can discuss with. So that way then they would take that, basically the recommendations to the board as a whole.
Okay, and previous years we voted because there was 4 people that wanted, to be on. It was Jen, Amy, and Bob. And so who would like to be on the negotiating committee for this next year?
I would again.
Jen? Amy, do you want to?
I absolutely can.
Okay, is there anyone else?
I think it'd be good for Erin, if she can.
Okay. Do we want, without her here, do we want to, or,
Is this possibly something that we could postpone until we have Aaron and,
The negotiation, so as of right now, the plan is that the first conversation will take place at the December 19th meeting. And so
You
I will need to
want it,
have at
okay.
least, even if it's 2,
Okay.
like we can do 2 and we can add to it. I just know that we need to meet
so we
prior
can add to
the
it at
19th.
any time? This is,
okay, because I was gonna say we can go ahead and do 2, and then we can ask Erin if she sees a conflict because of her work schedule and things like that. I can do it too.
Okay, yeah,
Would that work?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone to do it that way?
I won't be at the December 19th meeting too, so if you want to stand in.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can for me
and really,
at that point.
yeah, you don't have to be at the, like, it would be like the meeting prior, so we can discuss what the numbers look like and then talk about kind of where we currently are, in regard to negotiations HR. So you can still serve on the committee even if you can't be in there on the 19th.
Right. Okay, so we have at least 2 for Jen and Amy, and then we'll ask Erin, and if she declines, then I can be on it. That's not a problem, okay? So can I get a motion to approve the negotiations HR committee?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stelfer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Mills County Conference Board.
So this person just has to live in Mills County. So that's the
Okay.
only qualification.
Can I just volunteer?
Yeah.
Does anybody else even live in Mills County?
No, it's Daryl.
It's,
Always been Daryl.
Yeah.
I think this is his 25th year, something like that.
oh,
Mhm.
all right. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Nominate Daryl.
It's a tough job.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Potawatomi County Conference Board.
Same thing as the Mills County. They meet periodically throughout the year, and basically take care of, I think, from what I understand, it's essentially they basically set the guidance for the county. Is that kind of what they do? Yeah.
I think, do they have just one meeting, or there might be 2?
One, usually just
Just one meeting?
set the assessor's budget. That's what it amounts to.
Well, I'll do it.
It's an easy gig, so I nominate Brian.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Facilities Committee.
So this would be a relatively new committee. I know that you guys probably had something like this in place before, but this committee, as we progress through the assessment and the facility plan, comprehensive facility plan, and any future projects we have, at least for this next calendar year, a lot of times, I'll like to have just, you know, sometimes the conversations are frequent, like if I'm working with an architect and we're trying to develop what the plan looks like for projects moving forward, then he might say, you know, are you able to meet at like 10 a.m. and we can kind of review things. And so that, if I have a smaller ad hoc committee that I'm able to pull in and say, you know, that's not a quorum, that I can pull in and say, hey, we're going to meet at 10 a.m. on this day. Would you like to sit in and you can have feedback on that? Obviously, any decisions that are made regarding facilities still goes to the board for those decisions. But they can help, you know, kind of set with, you know, at least give the perspective of a board member and kind of that, with that, and ask those kind of questions, so.
I have that flexibility, so I can
I'd
do
like to
it.
be on it.
I was gonna say, I'd like to be on it.
There's
So it's-
3.
Brian, me, and Amy, anyone else interested?
If we have 4, would we have to have it posted?
I don't
Correct.
think we can have
Yeah,
four,
that would
can
be a
we?
quorum.
Yeah, it would
That'd
be
be
a quorum.
Quorum.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it'd
good
have
with
to be
it.
3.
So do you need a nomination for the 3 people that volunteered?
Yep.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffield?
Yes. All right. We are done with that part of the meeting, so we'll go on to reports. The superintendent report.
Okay. So just, I talked about functional spaces, how they utilize the space as educators and students, what maybe some wishes if they could, you know, think bigger outside the box, if they could redo things, if they could, you know, any issues that they see that they can kind of address. So met with him, and then this afternoon they were at Creft. And then tomorrow morning they will be at the middle school, and then the afternoon they'll be at Titan Hill. So, and then by the time they're done, and they did the old athletic building today as well. They won't do anything here at the ERC because it's our newest building, and I don't really have any issues with it as of right now. But they will go through all of the main attendance centers. When they are done, they will give us a report back, and that'll probably be later January, and so beginning of February, and then we will sit down and start having stakeholder meetings in February and March with the idea that obviously we still have summer work. We have a summer work budget that needs to be done. We have some ideas of what we need to get accomplished this summer, but we also know that we want to think bigger than what we think needs to get done this summer. We want to think about, you know, what is our, you know, 5, 10, 20-year plan. And so what I'd hate to do is I'd hate to do something and utilize the money and spend the money this summer if that's not the direction we see long-term. And so that's where conversations with stakeholders from employees and parents and talking with them about, you know, what do they see as long-term goals for the district and what do we need to do to reach those. And so I will be asking, and with that said, I will be asking you guys probably in January to come up with names for me to put down on a potential facilities committee list. And then I will reach out to those individuals and see if they're available to serve. And then I'll have you guys approve a formal ad hoc committee for that. It's much easier than reaching out to, you know, all 10,000 people that live in our district. So trying to find a committee that's pretty encompassing of homeowners and business owners and people that attend the school, people that with kids that attend the school, people with kids that no longer attend the school, people with kids who never have had kids attend the school. You know, I want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the community at large. So if we do go forward with any larger project, that we are taking all voices into consideration. So, so that's what that timeline looks like. I sent out a survey 2 weeks ago from today, or from tomorrow, that was about late starts. And so just to kind of give you guys feedback on that, we did at 83.4% of our parents and all 4 of our buildings have said that they would prefer late starts if that's an option. Now, with that said, If I'm wavering in any way, obviously, we're gonna call school. Predominantly late starts are for situations like, it's gonna be, extremely cold tomorrow, and we wanna make sure, we wanna wait till the sun comes up, just to make sure. Or it's gonna be foggy, and we know that ahead of time. Or it snowed tonight, and we wanna give our road crews a little extra time to clear. So it's gonna be, what I don't want is I don't want to have to call late start. Not to say it's never gonna happen. I've had to do it before on a couple different occasions where you're like, okay, yep, this is a perfect late start situation. And then Mother Nature laughs at you and then slams you again. And then you're like, okay, never mind. I guess we're gonna have to close for the day. It's never ideal, but if I can't predict the weather. If I could, I would be on a beach somewhere. So, but that's not the scenario. But 83% approval. There were a lot of other questions that came up about, why don't we just do, online learning on those days? The easy answer, and I will communicate this out when I send the results of the survey out to the parents, is that the state doesn't allow that. So there is no provision. They did allow it during COVID. They do not allow it. We are not approved as an online district. There have been conversations at the state level where they're talking about putting that into legislation, so that way we can do online learning. Even if they did, I'm not sure that we would do it. And the reason that I'm not sure about that is because our hours are based on the lowest attendance center. So CREFT right now, because of their schedule, CREFT students, our kindergarten through second grade students, technically attend the fewest number of hours in the district. And so if we're gonna do online learning works okay for, and I'm not gonna say it works really well, because I don't think it does work really well. I think it works okay for our high school students and our middle school students. Online learning does not work for our kindergarten and first grade students. It just doesn't. Because it's too reliant on the parent to ensure that they're getting the instruction. And so for me to say, yes, we're gonna count 4 snow days in online school for our kindergarten, first grade students, I would have a very hard time doing that as an educator, because I know that those 4 days are not really spent in education. Because those parents have a lot of other things to do. And so if that's the case, even if online school is allowed, we would still probably be extending days. And that's because I place a very high priority on education in general. And even if people talked about, we have to attend 1,080 hours, we're scheduled to do about 1,094 hours, which is about 14 hours over. No, a little more than that. I think we had 3.5 days total over, so about almost 2,000 hours. And the reason that I don't want to go to minimums, because I don't think Lewis Central does anything to a minimum. I mean, we're talking about, every week or every board meeting, I bring people who are excelling at all levels. And so for us to sit here and say, oh, we're going to meet the minimum standard, we're not going to extend that, I don't think that should be in our vocabulary ever, nor should our parents want that. I think it does become difficult when the summer months come and we do have to decide, do we want to stay out an extra day? And then we really have to determine whether or not we're going to be productive on that day. I think those conversations have to be had. But I don't think we ever need to have the mindset of, well, let's just meet the minimum. Because that's not who we are. And that's not what we want for our kids. I have kids, and I don't want my kids to ever face those words. Minimum's not a word that we use in my house. So that'll be something that we communicate out as well, just to make sure people are aware. We're gonna do everything I can to educate students in the best way possible. And late starts will be a part of that equation, but who knows how many times we're gonna be able to do that. So that's late start. Calendar. So one of the things that I will be doing is I will be emailing our parents and asking for feedback on calendar development. I know that next year's calendar has already been voted on, but we do have to set a calendar for the next year, for the 24-25 school year. With your permission, based upon the feedback I received from parents and staff members, I think we can have a conversation about next year's calendar using the feedback that we receive. So I will bring, and this won't happen until probably the second meeting in January, but I'll bring that feedback in and I'll say, here's the feedback from the parents, because that's probably the one of the most things I've heard about daycare a lot, I've heard about preschool, and I've heard about our calendar. So making sure parents feel like they have a voice in it, making sure that our staff feels they have a voice in it, and then bringing that data back to you guys to say, you know, here's what the parents are saying. Because there's nothing to say that you guys can't adjust the calendar for next year. I think that that's actually a common practice. So that's something we can look at. I do think people have to understand too, when it comes to calendars, that there are some things that they have to understand. They don't get their cake and eat it too. I think a lot of people would like to see us have a 3-day holiday at Thanksgiving, a 2-week at Christmas, or at that time period, a week-long spring break, and then still get out by Memorial Day. And that's just not physically possible unless we are willing to come to school on Saturdays. So we still have to get the 1,080 hours in. And so, a lot of it has to do because the state will not let us start prior to August 23rd. And so when people look at, well, the Omaha Metro schools, the Omaha schools, or the Nebraska schools, they get to have a 3-day Thanksgiving, a 2-day or a 2-week holiday break or winter break, and then they also get a spring break, and they're still out by Memorial Day. It's because their state lets them start at like August 18th. So they're able to start earlier so they can end earlier. So that's one of the things we have to understand is we have to be able to get all those days in. So it's almost about what do we value most as a school district? And I think letting the parents give us that feedback will be crucial to developing a calendar. But I will bring that back to you guys. Another thing is I will be doing the PBIS reward day at Titan Hill. They're gonna do caroling and cocoa with Dr. Hazing. So that started off as me just going over there for the kids that are selected and just going over there, which how they select them is every time a student does something that's really, you know, good for PBIS, they put a slip in a jar, and they might have, excuse me, a lot of slips in the jar, and then they go and they draw X amount of names out per grade level, and then they get the reward for that time. And then if they don't get it, their tickets stay in the jar, and then they kind of go to the next month. So, so for all the kids that get drawn, I will go over there, and originally it was gonna be walking around Titan Hill and doing some caroling around the classrooms, and then I said, well, I have a bus. So instead, we're gonna go carol at the high school and the middle school and the ERC and the operations building and at Kreft, and then we're also gonna hit up, hopefully if we can maybe swing down to City Hall and we can go to maybe one of the, just another location, whatever we have time for. We're gonna go around and do some of that. Perfect. Wherever it's easy for me to drive a bus into, so.
That would be easy.
Awesome. So, so it should be fun. So we'll go around and sing some holiday carols, and I'll make sure I get a wide variety, and we'll have some fun that day. So.
Make sure you get some videos so we can
Yes.
see that.
Mr. Black's gonna be joining me. I'm gonna drag him along with me. So maybe you'll even bring his trumpet. So crossing my fingers.
Let me
So,
know when that date is.
and then and if you guys want to come along, that would be fun.
When is it?
I'll tell you, it's December 21st. So if anybody wants to hop on the bus and go sing some carols, you're more than welcome to come along. Brian just volunteered, so.
I did not hear that.
Last thing I'm gonna say is just so you guys understand, and so our community out there understands, we are going to look into, as part of the calendar discussion, I am having the building look into discussing trimesters versus semesters. So there have been some conversations taking place over the last few months about pros and cons of both. And so we're really gonna be digging into trimesters versus semesters and talking about pros and cons, and because if there is going to be a change, it will have some pretty big implications for a lot of our programming, calendars, even staffing, a lot of those types of things. So there's a lot to think through, but I think there are merits to both, and we just need to dig through and see what's good for Lewis Central. And really, it's good to address those things every now and then. So we've had trimesters a very long time, and sometimes for a lot of things they're great, and for some other things that we're trying to get at, they kind of looked a little bit like a roadblock. So, but we just got to vet it. So that is it for my updates.
Okay. We'll go on to discussion items, 10.01, board member resignation. Everyone should have received, Bob Hendricks has moved out of the district, and so he has resigned his seat. Bob was on the board for 15 years, and I want to publicly thank him for serving on the board, Lewis Central Board. He was and will continue, I know, to be an advocate for Lewis Central and all students. And so it's sorry to see him go, but as a board, we need to replace him. And how we've done it, board policy, or what the state says, we had to post it.
Yes,
And
we
was
have.
that posted?
Yes, as of yesterday, it was published in the NUPRA that the intent to appoint a board member.
Okay.
So that has to be published for posted, and then there's a 14-day period, so we will be able to appoint at the next meeting.
Okay, at the December 19th meeting? Okay.
And this would be for the balance of Bob's term?
Right, this would be
It
for a
is.
year,
It is for 1 year till the next
Election.
election.
November.
And
Okay.
then
and then,
there'll be a 2-year term then
Correct.
that would be
Okay.
open.
correct, and they could run for the 2-year, or if, at that time, we'll have three
Three, 4
three
years.
other 4 years. And so then the top votes would get that. I know in the past, we've asked for people to apply to, if they're interested in taking the position. And we've talked to them, and then the board chooses on who to appoint. We just had the election in November, a year ago, and Travis Houston was the 4th. He was five votes below Aaron, who is seated on the board. And so I know he would serve, and he would, and he actually, the voters voted for him. He was just 5 votes below Aaron. So that is someone that we could appoint. And so we just see if anyone,
When does the posting come down again?
It was published yesterday.
It has to be
I
14
know,
days.
but I mean, what did
It's
we
2
give for a
weeks.
deadline? I'm sorry.
That is just that we have the intent to appoint, so
Okay.
we have to have 14 days there, and we have 30 days from Bob's resignation to appoint.
right. So we could appoint someone at the next board meeting on the 19th,
Yes,
or
have a special meeting,
have a special meeting.
or you would have to have a special meeting on
Right.
the
Yeah, 'cause you
19th.
hit the 30-day
Right, because
mark.
we wouldn't have another
Correct.
board meeting. So, I have talked to Travis, just so everyone knows, and so I guess we'll just wait to see if anyone contacts the ERC to see if they're interested. And then we'll go from there to see if we would do any interviews or,
Yeah, I think if we're gonna make it, for other people, I think we just need to make sure that they understand if we're gonna do it next meeting, that they need to have some form of communication with yourself or
right, in the
whoever
next 2
by,
weeks.
prior to next meeting, so that we can give everybody a legit opportunity. Cause they don't have to do any of the signature stuff, none of that.
Correct.
It's just an appointment, so.
Yes,
I mean, if we wanna do it next meeting, or if we wanna hold a special meeting, we just need to decide that, I think.
I think it'd be easier if we just go ahead and plan on their next meeting, that we would, if we can appoint someone. I think, the publication is 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks to notify.
Yeah. Just to be fair for everybody, I think it's,
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And then depending on the number of people that are interested, I did see last time, you must have got together in an exempt session and reviewed the applicants
Yeah.
prior to the board meeting, and so, so that
Well,
could
I
be,
think what we did was we just set up a time before the board meeting and we talked to them.
okay, yeah.
We didn't,
It was remote. because
right, it
during
was
COVID.
remote
Yeah.
last time.
Yep.
And we just, was it 15 minutes?
Yeah.
It wasn't for very long. We just spoke to them and then we decided and made the appointment.
Gotcha.
And I think we should stick with that, just if anyone
Right.
is interested.
So what we'll do is we'll just hang tight and see how many people we have that are that apply, and then I'll get a hold of you, and then we'll talk about, what needs to take place as for a review process, and then.
Right.
And then we'll just make sure that if we do that, so plan on potentially meeting prior to this time if you can.
And I think we had questions already set out. I think we decided on what questions to talk to them about. And so we'll have that ready.
Okay.
And I have those questions from last time.
Yeah, yeah. So
And-
we're
I was
not,
gonna
And
say,
you
I
will
was
be here.
appointed at one point, and remember there was a questionnaire I had to fill out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was first appointed to the board. so.
yeah. And so, okay, then we'll go ahead and we'll shoot for the 19th. And unless something else comes up, we should be able to appoint someone that night. Okay, is that all right with everyone? Okay, and then we'll go to 10.02, early notification of resignation incentive.
So this is something that quite a few school districts are doing. You know, ever since COVID, kind of, the game has changed a little bit for a lot of districts. So things that never used to be common are popping up as a staple in a lot of districts, and this is one of them. And what this is this is an incentive for those who know they're going to be leaving our employment as far as certified staff goes, either for retirement or other purposes. Maybe they know that, maybe they know teaching's not for them. Maybe they know that their spouse is going to be, you know, moved to another area of the state or a different state. Maybe they know that they just want to retire. So for whatever reason, a lot of times people know these things ahead of time, and then because there's no reason to say it early, they just kind of let it sit there. And then, so then they notify us within the time that we request them to, and then they have to, it's the time that our contracts are due, usually in April. And then we are kind of then at that point scrambling to find replacements, you know, in April. And we usually find some very good replacements, but the pool in April and in May is not nearly as big as the pool in February and March. And so the idea is we don't currently offer an early retirement incentive, would be to offer an early notification incentive for those individuals who know they're going to not be in our employment anymore, and will just notify us ahead of time. So in order to receive this notification, which we talked about, we're finding it's pretty common. $1,500 is kind of the common number that people are putting out there right now. So if you know ahead of time, and you're able to submit a resignation to us by the end of January, then you would qualify for that $1,500 early resignation incentive. So if they are retirement eligible, which means they've hit the age of 55, and they are stating on their form they're going to retire, we can actually pay this out of management fund. If they are not 55 or do not mark that they're going to be retiring, then it will come out of our general fund. But the number we're going to recommend, because we do have a budget, general fund's not awesome, is a max of 15 individuals. I don't know that we'll come close to that, but at least it opens it up for people who are interested in it. And that's a total of, is it 22,500? So a total of 22,500 for, that we would possibly spend. And that would be, depending if they're going to retire or they're eligible for retirement, some of that would be taken out of our management fund then. So, which is better than coming out of our general fund. But either way, to be honest, that incentive that we're paying out is worth it to hiring agents, because we we know that we're gonna be able to, have a bigger pool to hire from, and it makes it a little bit easier on us, like, versus kind of just waiting to see who comes along. So, and we can actually recruit from, at that point, we can still recruit from the college ranks as far as new graduates if we need to. So, and we're not finding anybody else who've already signed a contract with a new district or anything like that. So it would be something, otherwise, without this, they really have no incentive to tell us prior to
Right.
when contracts are due.
Is there any discussion? I think the benefit will be, we'll be able to attract earlier the applications, and I think that'll be good for us.
Back when we had early retirement, I think the most we got was 5,
Yeah.
And that was just for retirement,
retirement only.
right? Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to 10.03, Blink project contribution, $100,000.
So we, sorry, my notes here. Dave can probably talk about this a lot better than I can. I know that in September 2021, the board approved a 28E agreement with the City of Council Bluffs to partner on the Blink project. Our contribution for the project at that time was set at $100,000, and I believe that was, the board was made aware of that contribution requirement, so that was going to come out of ESSER funds. And it's now time, they're ready to expand into the craft area, and so now it's time for us to pay our share, so. Excuse me. Am I missing anything,
We
Dave?
do look for the Twin City area, and that would include Chapel Ridge as well, that area would be built out for the spring.
Okay, and to remind us what the Blink project is?
Blink is a consortia that's made up of the City of Council Bluffs, the Council Bluffs Community School District, the City of Carter Lake, and Lewis Central Community Schools. It's a partnership designed to provide public Wi-Fi access to the door, not necessarily guaranteeing anything beyond your door, right? But to the door of the most needy households in the city limits. We're looking at the 9th wave of the Blink project. There are also 2 important partners in this whole endeavor. That's Google and the Iowa West Foundation as well. Google and Iowa West Foundation contribute every year to the project, and it has been, until ESSER funds were available, it was the primary driver of all of the purchasing. Those 2 entities provided the dollars, made the dollars available. When ESSER came into play, then the project was accelerated through the use of ESSER monies by Council Bluffs Community School District and now with us to move the services faster to the people who need them.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
It mentions ESSER or PEPL, but it will be paid out of ESSER?
It kind of depends. So, we are beholden to pay that amount. We may find it more, because of some of the expenses that we have tied to ESSER right now. We're still trying to figure out how that shakes out. So it'll probably end up being a mix, whatever, the problem is when we say last year, we're gonna pay it out of ESSER and then more expensive get taken out of ESSER. ESSER was really hard to budget for because it was one of those where you spent it, where you had to apply for it to be approved, it would be approved, and then you spent it, and then you had to apply for reimbursement, and then they would, so some of those figures are a little bit out there. So I just said, if we'll pay for what we can out of ESSER, and if it doesn't shake out that we have $100,000 because we've spent a lot of ESSER, that we'll take the remainder out of PEPL. So either way, it's something that we agreed to, but we'll figure it out, so.
Any other questions? All right. 10.04, open enrollment application request for Iowa Code. We can have this in closed session. And so can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wydledge?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. We are back from our closed session, and we are at comments and suggestions. This is the second time during our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone online wants to type something in, they can address the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to action items. 12.01, early notification of resignation incentive.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the issuance of an early notification of resignation incentive in the amount of $1,500 for the first 15 qualified applicants due January 31st, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 12.02, Blink project contribution, $100,000.
Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the issuance of payment for the Blink project in the amount of $100,000 to be paid out of either ESSER or PEPAL.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 12.03, open enrollment application request for student A.
Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the open enrollment application for student A.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. And now for student B.
Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the open enrollment application for student B.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 12.04, employee request for other paid or unpaid leave.
Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Stoffer.
I make a motion to approve the request for leave.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Our next board meeting will be December 19th at 6:30. Anything else?
Nope.
You need to?
The only other thing I would say is on that, the board seat, it would be good, I think, to post it on our social media or on our website in some fashion, just so people know.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can stay. Thanks for coming.
And you want these?